What's your best example of he had it coming? Story 1. One morning, I stopped at Dunkin' Donuts on my way to work for some coffee. It had already been a not-so-great morning, so I wasn't in the best mood. The guy a couple people ahead of me got a large iced coffee, which is 32 ounces at Dunkin' Donuts, and he ended up being parked next to me in the parking lot. So I'm getting in my car and happen to glance over and notice that he's in his car, but his giant coffee is on the roof of his car. So I waved at him and pointed to his roof. He looked at me, and for whatever reason, his reaction was to flip me off. Don't know if he thought I was making some kind of rude gesture or I was just a weirdo or what. But I got to watch him pull off his parking space. His coffee stayed put while he backed out. But as soon as he braked to shift gears, that thing just dumped all down his front windshield. It was honestly one of the most gratifying moments of my life. Story 2. A few years ago, I went out to a pub with some friends for my birthday. A few of them were sitting outside and my best friend coughed. This apparently infuriated a girl sitting nearby and had her boyfriend just start beating the hell out of my best friend, female by the way, and her boyfriend. My best friend is a little scrapper, so she can hold her own in a fight if she needs to, but the guy is the one throwing the majority of the punches. Police obviously got called and the guy legged it before they arrived. Police took statements from my friends and started trying to find the guy in order to arrest him, but even after a few weeks, they still hadn't found him. Best friend gets a call from the police soon after to say that they had arrested the guy who had beaten up her and her boyfriend. Turns out they hadn't been able to find him because while he was running away from the pub that night, he'd tried to jump a high fence, fallen, and hit his head, resulting in a 6-week coma. Story 3 had an annoying co-worker. She wore workout clothes to work every day because she was a psycho health nut. She constantly bragged about her disgusting kale smoothies she'd bring in for breakfast every day. She'd spend half an hour taking pictures of her kale salad for lunch and spend the next hour posting it. She'd bitch incessantly about her boyfriend not spending every waking moment of his life spoiling her with gifts and not exercising with her. She'd whine about how much time her daughter took from her. She'd brag about coming home from work and immediately putting her daughter down for a nap so she could go outside and run. Dumber than a bag of rocks, too. She never paid attention to instructions, and the rest of us spent countless hours fixing her mistakes. It was a summer job, so firing her would have taken more paperwork than it was worth than just writing it out, according to my boss. I was also a summer hire, but the appointment could be extended for an extra month if our boss wanted to do the paperwork, which he did for those of us who were good workers. She told me he had extended her appointment, and then asked if he had done the same for me. Yes, I replied, he had. She got furious and stormed off to the boss's office. I was confused. My coworker told me that our boss hadn't extended her, and she just lied to me to see if she was getting let go earlier than the rest of us. She bitched out the boss, telling him she had a daughter to support, and he was effectively starving her little girl by taking away her job early. She lived with her parents and was very well taken care of. I wouldn't wish for this level of had it coming on anyone. Even this woman. Her daughter came down with cancer. I don't believe she made it. Story 4. When I was 18 and stupid, I met this guy through a mutual friend. Originally, he was just my pot dealer, but we started hanging out. Eventually became friends with benefits, which was fine with me until all of a sudden those benefits started including stealing my money, making me fund his weed purchases so he could sell, being his personal chauffeur, and being his shoulder to cry on when he had issues with his girlfriend, whom I didn't know about. He got super manipulative, and it got to the point where he was waking me up at 3 a.m. for his random favors. Finally, around October of that year, I had this weird feeling that I shouldn't be around someone so manipulative anymore, and I cut him off. He ended up harassing me on Facebook, trying to make me feel guilty for not helping him anymore. In January, I was watching the news and saw that he got shot on his front porch. Supposedly, he owed somebody money for drugs. He lived. But man, there was nothing more satisfying than seeing that news broadcast. To this day, I feel like a sick fuck for enjoying it. Story 5. My now ex-wife was cheating on me with a then very good friend of mine. His fiancée was my ex's best girlfriend at the time. She discovered some less than savory text between my ex and my friend. Caught him leaving my house one evening when I was out of town with work. Everything was exposed, and for whatever reason, I took some of the blame and tried to work things out with her. She wasn't having it. Said she was never happy, and that we never should have gotten married in the first place over 4 years earlier. Fast forward a little bit. I moved out of the house and I get a call from her sobbing over the phone saying she's just lost her job. Apparently, she'd been bringing her new BF around to her job, which had her working at an all-girls Catholic school certain days during the week. The school didn't like the example she was setting for these impressionable young girls, and they called in a complaint about her. Pile this on top of her overall crappy performance at work, and she got fired on the spot. Justice. But wait, there's more. She couldn't afford the mortgage payment and stopped making payments altogether. They had to short sale her house for about 25% of what she still owed. Credits fucked for years. She moves back in with her parents and brings the dude with her. Within a year, she's pregnant, and although we aren't friends on social media anymore, I do still keep in touch with her father. He was more of a friend to me than a father-in-law, and that's what hurt the most. I've seen some photos of her baby that my ex-father-in-law has posted, and I'll have to say, that is the ugliest baby I've ever laid eyes on. I might be biased, but I've also confirmed with others that this baby is hideous. Karma's a bitch, and I'm now with the most perfect girl I've ever met, and we've been going strong for almost 3 years now. Fuck you, Rachel. Story 6, I used to work at this burger joint called The Works. Real good food, by the way, just really pricey. Anyways, this one new guy named Jay gets transferred over from another work restaurant to ours so he could do his coop and also go to school. Long story short, he was a piece of shit from the start, came in, and basically thought he ran the show, bossing everybody around and treating them all like shit. The owner loved him, but all the staff hated him. Anyways, during one of our dinner rushes, I was on fryers and was deep frying some French fries for an order. Jay, who was on top of the burgers, would sit there and shit on everyone for going too slow. We were making great time, and the food would be properly cooked, prepared, and sent out in 15 minutes. Max, it was honestly going really well and everyone was doing great, yet Jay still shit on us for every little thing. He started to yell at me for not getting the fries on the next order yet. I checked the fries and they weren't cooked yet, so I kept them down and told him they're not done yet. He muffled something under his breath and storms across the line to come check on them. Anyways, we have this one deep fryer that didn't have any basket and was basically used as a backup in case we needed to clean out a fryer during the rush. On his little storm across the line, he slips on something and tries to catch himself but falls right into the empty deep fryer. Like I'm talking, his entire hand and part of his arm just went straight down into that thing. He pulled it out about 0.2 seconds later, but holy fuck was he ever in pain. Didn't even feel bad. Rest of the shift went a lot smoother too while his bossy ass got driven to the hospital by our manager. Story 7. Ex dumped me for his friend. He gaslighted me repeatedly whenever I'd voice out my concerns about his growing closeness with her, only for me to find out that he already started dating her not even 2 months after he dumped me. They made their relationship official on Facebook in September last year, but were apparently dating as early as February 2016. He lied to friends whom he knew would call him out, but was pretty upfront about this to his enabler friends. The truth only came out fairly recently. He also gossiped about me with his enabler friends, and the woman he dumped me for, she isn't innocent or blameless. She knew full well that my ex and I often had arguments because of her. Not even a year into their relationship, she started 2017 by dumping him. In March, he cornered her at an event she was staffing at and got her to agree to talk to him. They supposedly resolved things and became friends again, but their friendship soured after she publicly shared her story about being cornered. He got upset and said that she should have talked to him about the matter privately. He also said that she should have been honest with him instead of pretending that everything was okay. Now they're not even friends, and some of her friends also cut ties with him. And not only that, some of his former friends have also not been talking to him as much because they felt betrayed and lied to when he told them shitty things about me, lied to them about his feelings for that woman, still tried to defend himself after they found out when exactly he started dating her and cornered her. Some of them even got in touch with me just to apologize for taking him at face value and believing the gossip. Meanwhile, I'm focusing on living healthier and haven't had suicidal ideations in a year thanks to therapy. I'm pretty sure that my life, while not perfect, is better than his at the moment. Story 8. I served time in prison in my early 20s and was having a really shit day. Got pulled out of line for a random strip search on the way to breakfast. Then I called home and was told my dog was very sick and most likely going to need to be put down. Then I see that I'm getting a new cellmate after 3 days of having the cell to myself. Then the CO calls me over and discreetly tells me that my new cellmate is locked up for raping his 9-year-old daughter and taking pics of it to trade online. That was the last straw. Was not going to live in a cell with someone like that. So I went in and introduced myself and told him where his stuff could go, etc. Asked him what he was in for and to see his paperwork. Convicts are almost always in possession of court documents proving why they are incarcerated. It's standard practice to check each other's paperwork so you can know if someone is a rapist or a rat. And he said he was in for burglary, but didn't have any paperwork. So he, not wanting to show me his paperwork, verified to me that the CO was telling me the truth. So I left the cell and went over to the cleaning cart and grabbed the spray bottle with bleach solution in it and poured a bunch into my coffee cup. Walked back into the cell and threw it in his eyes. He grabbed his face and started screaming. I grabbed him by the shirt and threw him off his bunk into the floor and proceeded to stomp on the side of his face 5 or 6 times until he was unconscious. Then I walked back downstairs to the CO station and told the CO that I just stomped the shit out of the molester they put in my cell. I broke his cheekbone and his orbital socket on the left side of his face. I ended up having to do 6 months in solitary for the assault, but the guy was too scared to press on me, so I didn't get a new criminal charge. He got what he deserved, and I got to vent my rage on someone who definitely had it coming. Story 9, I'm out cycling in a rural area when a dog comes out of nowhere and snaps my right ankle. I barely managed to get off the bike without falling and keep the bike between me and the dog while dialing 911. The dog won't go away, keeps lunging at me. A few minutes later, a deputy shows up, and about that same time, a woman comes out of a nearby house and starts wailing about her dog and how it means so much to her, and it's the only companion for her disabled veteran boyfriend, and please don't take the dog, etc., etc. She says disabled veteran about every other word, all the while accusing me of provoking the dog somehow. She's talking nonstop about how important the dog is and how I shouldn't be riding on the road, and just an endless stream of crap. I can see the deputy is buying into her routine and figures I should just get back on the bike when the animal control officer shows up. Amazingly enough, a guy I knew in high school. He nods to me and turns to the woman who's still talking nonstop. First thing he says is, "This is not the first time I've been called on this dog, is it?" She finally shuts the hell up. He then goes on to say this is the 3rd time he's been called because the dog has bitten someone. He takes a photo of the broken skin on my ankle, collects the dog, and tells the woman she has 2 weeks to pay the fine. Any restitution to me or the dog will be given up for adoption. She immediately starts in on a torrent of abuse on the animal control officer, including calling him a black bastard, as he is indeed a black man, and a few other choice profanities. He just finished writing up his report, gives her and me a copy, and drives off. Meanwhile, my phone rings. It's a friend of mine who lives nearby who had heard the call on his scanner. He's an EMT and recognized my name. He offers to come shoot the dog, and the woman as well, as the dog had bitten one of his kids. I declined the offer as a well-meaning but possibly illegal move. Felt sorry about the dog. Never did find out what happened to it. Story 10. Picture your typical jock, private school douchebag. He tormented kids from 7th to 11th grade, me included as we were in the same grade, pushing them, stealing food, making them do his homework, stuff straight from the I have a tiny penis handbook. But his parents were wealthy, and it was a private school, and I think you all know how this story ends. Thankfully, I kind of flew under his radar, so I never got it that bad. Any woozle, senior year, he decided to pick on a new sophomore. Kid was probably 5 feet 9 inches, 280 to 300 pounds. So, essentially, a butterball. Or at least, that is what the bully thought, and everyone else thought. So the bully starts in on this kid from day one, poking fun of his weight, making him feel like shit. But this kid wasn't backing down. Turns out the butterball had a spine after all. Now, since fighting on school grounds was cause for immediate expulsion, even if you had rich parents, the bully challenges Butterball to a fight at a local public baseball complex. Butterball accepts, and the school is aflutter with talk of this because honestly, even though it was a private school and there were lots of shitty humans, there just weren't a lot of actual, honest-to-God fights. So probably 100 plus kids show up to see this battle royale. Bully starts in on this kid, talking shit, even landing a punch square on the kid's jaw. You know that scene in Cinderella Man where Corn Griffin pops Russell Crowe right in the mouth and it doesn't faze him and he just starts smiling? That's exactly what happened. Turns out Butterball was a championship junior wrestler or some shit. And on top of that, he was one tough motherfucker. He literally ragdolled the bully around, picked him up, threw him down, let him get back up, would punch him right in the face and then stop and wait for him to get his bearings. And in the end, he put him in a full Nelson and walked him around and let everyone make fun of him for getting his ass whipped. It was like something out of a movie.